Phil Spencer, long cast as Xbox savior, may be remembered as the man who killed it. So hit points now that all the big beats have failed. Spencer is turning to a corrective measure. It says Phil Spencer spoke to the press at GDC last week, offering some context and spin on Microsoft's recent maneuvers while dropping a few non-consumery hints about the Xbox division future plans. I take one of the issues with this is I'm no longer sure Xbox has much future to speak of. Moreover, I think Phil Spencer, for the so long cast of Xbox savior, may ultimately be remembered as the man who killed it. Since speaking to Polygon, which has chopped the interview up into multiple news pieces, the acquisition of Blizzard consisted of the decision to take on Xbox exclusive PlayStation 5 and Switch as layoffs has also been designated to counter the unavoidable infeasible truth. Now, without consumers, Spencer says everybody else consumers is your success state. It says you can't succeed unless you draw in consumers from other publishers and other platforms. And because you're not finding the new consumers with the games that you are building, everybody kind of fighting over the same size pie. So, quote, when you have the industry that is also projected into smaller next year in terms of players and dollars, there's also a lot of publicly traded companies that are also in the industry that also have to show their investors growth, okay? And this is because companies always have to show the number going up. Because why else does somebody own a share of someone's stock if it's not going to grow? Now, the side of the business is that it gets scrutinized is the cost side. Because you're not going to grow the revenue side, then the cost side becomes a challenge, okay? He says, now look, Spencer is right here. He says to the degree, and this is where it comes to the punter, a rank of a file developer and random game studio and a modest successful newsletter, idiot, and also a fair comment. But Phil, he says, but Phil, mate, I'm sorry to have to point this out to you, but you're the head of Xbox. He's saying, like, Phil, you're complaining about this stuff, but you're the guy that's literally in charge that you can make the changes. He says that you're not, right? So he says, I don't see much point of dwindling on how we got here because I think it's quite obvious to us, and all we got it wrong. All Spencer's big bet. He says the pivot to subscriptions, of variable hardware SKUs, and spending spree on studio acquisitions, there is Xbox does not just being, to borrow Xbox tagline, the best place to play, but the best place to play best game. He says, is there one lesson that we can take from Spencer's era is that the act of disruptive change that you like, but you also cannot disprove the industry's oldest truth. Greatest games sell consoles. This is sort of like what I always say, right? Make a game, sell a game. Now, from the developer's point of view, is make a game, sell a game. From our point of view, is buy a good game, enjoy a good game, right? Make a game, sell a game, buy a good game, enjoy the good game, right? That's our part. He says hundreds of billions of dollars later, Xbox still doesn't have them. If anything, I would argue that the first-party output has gotten worse since the shopping spree began, and struggles are, as such, no surprise at all. But here's the thing. Them buying up all the properties they've been buying up, it's only been like, what, 2 years since they bought Bethesda? It's been, what, 3 months since they bought, maybe 6 months since they bought Activision Blizzard? Do people think that just magically, like, games just pop out of their assholes? They're like, hey, we bought them, so here's all the games. No, it takes time. We all know it takes 3 to 5 years to make the game, right? Starfield was already in production well before Xbox bought Bethesda. So for them to be like, well, nothing's come out yet. Well, no shit, Sherlock. They haven't had time yet. The games and the companies that they bought were either in production, and don't forget, for 2 years, companies were struggling because they were either working from home, had no access, everything got dramatically longer because of COVID. Remember, everyone was stuck inside. None of our lives were like normal. Okay, so to say that all the stuff they bought is nothing's coming out, it's not enough time yet. Not enough time to decide if nothing's coming out yet because there hasn't been enough time for them to have ththese companies. Spencer spent part of the Polygon interview musing early about the dedicated Xbox handheld, which I'm sure seems like a no-brainer in the world here. Steam Deck exists, but I imagine it will be an alarming prospect for developers community that's slowly onto the fact that making games for Xbox is too much and given to the rewards and offer. Okay, now I've already said my piece about the handhelds. I think it'd be dumb if Xbox came out with a handheld, but you know, that's them. There's a huge handheld market right now, and you can get a piece of that, sure. But if you are third in the race of consoles, and let's say you're seventh in the race for handheld, why? When you could just take your games, put it on someone else's platform, and make a percentage of that without putting up the upfront money on that. GameIndustry.biz, Chris Drake returned to GDC with Tales publisher questioning that the future support of the platform that basks in so much risk. The dominated subscription services cannibalizes game sales, and they need to ensure parity across the Series S and X. Further, increased sky-high development costs and offered such a small audience in return. Now they wanted handheld versions as well. Best of luck with that. Yeah, but the problem is Game Pass had to get other companies to get on. They had to dish out the big money to put games on Game Pass. But now they have all these other companies, right? They have 38 studios. If they just take those 38 studios, they can literally have, let's just say, 12 studios, 10 studios per se. Every 3 years comes out with a game. Well, that's 10 first-party title games a year that could come onto Game Pass. They would make their money back on that because people would come and play those games if they were good games. If they make a game, sell a game. Now, you're not selling consoles, but you're selling the actual subscription of Game Pass, right? So, but if they keep spending $250 million to get this game come on and they don't get enough people to come on Game Pass, that is a loss. But we'll see what that happens in the long run. Now, with that, as the big bets have failed, Spencer is turning to corrective measures. Short-term fixes that might juice the numbers of the next couple of P&Ls, but also seem distant to the further weakness of Xbox ecosystem down the line. Bringing the likes of Epic Game Store, itch.io, and Xbox consoles would confuse the value proposition, giving users some ways to give money to people that aren't Microsoft and do nothing to transform Xbox fortune. Okay? Because I also love to have the itch library on console, don't get me wrong, but if Spencer thinks that that's going to move the needle in a meaningful way, that also makes Magic Beans to sell them. And it also thinks that the two-way street in the first step of the journey ends with Game Pass on PlayStation 5, Switch, and Steam. This is truly a lost plot. I think a lot of people can't fathom what they're trying to do, right? Which is kind of weird because Microsoft used to make or tried to make computers in the past, and they didn't want to because it was too much cost up front. So then they just made the operating system, and they said that would never work, right? Apple, who was making the software and also the hardware, became richer faster. But Microsoft also became just as rich as them, just following behind them because of just software. Now here we are almost 50 years later, okay, where Microsoft is now taking the digital aspect of what Game Pass is and whatever their future holds for them. And no one can fathom, they're like, oh, this will never work. But meanwhile, Steam itself is a company that had no hardware. Now they have the Steam Deck. Yes, they had the Steam Link and stuff like that. But Steam is successful because they made software, they made a storefront where people can buy games digitally on the PC. And they're very successful. So much so that GOG from CD Projekt Red, they started theirs, and they're very successful. That actually makes all the money to put towards the games that they're making. Okay, but now Xbox is trying to do the exact same thing, but in a different form, and people just don't understand what they're doing. And I find it funny. They're like, it'll never work. What do you mean, right? Steam works because they're just buying. You're buying the game. Thousands of games come out, you're buying the game, but you don't own those games. Xbox is doing the same thing where you could just buy the game and you don't have to actually own the console. And then on top of that, you can rent the game by playing Game Pass and paying a monthly fee. Right? A lot of people don't understand this, and I don't understand how they don't understand this because it's already happened in the past, which is going to happen different in the future, okay? Taking former exclusives to rival platform and yet more short-term thinking, sure, it may pump the numbers a bit, but each new port of one less reason to potential new customer to buy an Xbox, okay? And the one more reason to buy an Xbox owners to switch sides to abandon the platform for good. Once again, I cannot see a way in which it ends in Xbox, as also known in today, at least getting stronger. Again, but why do they have to sell an Xbox? Why do they have to sell an actual console to compete with PlayStation and Switch? Steam competes with these people, but they're not a console, so we don't include Steam in the actual console wars because they don't have a console. They're just selling goods on PC. Let's assume charitably that the Sea of Thieves sells 5 million copies at $40 a pop and launches on PlayStation 5 next month. Let us have more charitable pretend that it means $200 million in revenue for Microsoft ignoring distribution of marketing. Sony's platform cut in costs, also making Portal the first place last quarter, $200 million, would also increase Microsoft's revenue by 0.3%. And that's merely rounding an error for the company at the size. And this is where the health as gaming division is concerned. It's a little more than the sticking plaster. To be clear, I feel bad for Spencer. He seems decent sort. But I think of them coming into the wealth being best intentions and in the parallel universe, every horse is backed and romped home. We would be credited with transforming and perhaps even saving the game industry in another, than instead of spending $70 billion in Activision Blizzard, he spends it on 230-odd games with the same budget of Spider-Man 2. Perhaps Xbox is flying. But in this world, he spends 10 years of the amounts of money, taking a gargantuan amount of money, taking Xbox from third place to third place. And it's also marketing fault. It's also writing on the wall that Xbox as a whole is just certainly could be for him. Now, here's the thing. Taking from third place to third place, let's just say that that is fact. They're third place and they're still third place. Xbox is still more profitable than it's ever been before. So even still in third place, they're still more profitable than they've ever been before. And people will be like, Well, that's because Microsoft has other things. Yeah. Imagine going to a supermarket and going, well, the only reason the supermarket's in business is because the deli meat sells the most. Well, yeah, but it's still part of the business. If the deli meat sells the most, then the deli meat sells the most, and everything else doesn't sell, but it gets people in the store, and they also buy the meat while they buy other things there. Xbox might be buying stuff, and Windows might be keeping them afloat, or whatever else is keeping them afloat, but there's still stuff in the store that people can buy, and they're getting a percentage of that. I don't know about you, but if someone every day gave me a quarter or $1, I found $1 every day on the ground, are you not picking that up? I would pick it up, because over time, $1 then is $2, and $2 is $4, and it's a small percentage, but you're getting a percentage of something. Okay, I find it weird that someone looks at this and says, well, companies always want all the money, and yet Microsoft is saying we're okay with just taking a percentage of the money. We don't need all the money, and yet people have a problem with this. It's kind of weird to me. I don't know. I look at this and saying Microsoft has literally made their business on not owning anything. Now in the gaming business, they try to get in with the box, and they still have a box. They're going to keep a loss leader in there to keep their foot in the door of the video game space. But there's also mega corporations that are super successful by not owning a box. And yet Newland made the Steam Deck because he wanted his foot in that spot of actual, portable gaming. Not dominating the market, right? Nintendo's dominating the portable market, but he's got his foot in the door to get that portable market there. Now Xbox is looking at it going, well, because that's there, we can make a deal. Now, I don't know if this is going through, but if Steam can play Xbox games and Xbox gets on the Steam Deck and Steam Deck is now on Xbox, that's a win for Gabe, right? For Steam, because now you can play your Steam games on Xbox, and now you can play Xbox games over here. That seems like a win-win for both those companies. But these are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments section down below. How do you think this is going to play out? Do you think Xbox is done? I don't think so, because literally Microsoft made their whole business off of nothing, right? Just software. But again, let me know in the comment section down below. Please make sure you share, like, subscribe, and if you like what we do here, please make sure you check out some of our other videos. Thanks for watching.